Hello again. This is Bob Ford of Bob Ford's History, Mystery, and Lore. If you're new to the channel, here we dive into all kinds of interesting historical topics, so please like and subscribe. Today, we're talking about Osa Johnson. Let's get started. Hi, Dad. Well, hi, Osa. How was school? It was great. We talked to a really interesting man who traveled the world with Jack London on his boat. Oh, that's nice, honey. Have you done your chores? Well, he and I talked for a really long time, and he's headed back to the South Seas, and he wants me to go with him. What? 15-year-old Osa went. Times were different, and Osa's parents realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for their daughter. She left the comforts of Chanute, Kansas in 1909 on an adventure that changed many lives, including hers. Martin Johnson was at first her mentor, but soon fell in love and married Osa. She was 16 at the time, and he was 25. Believe it or not, there was nothing odd about that in the early 20th century. The Johnsons became famous worldwide. I personally think they had an enormous impact by introducing wildlife conservation to the masses. Martin was a photographer and produced videos about the remote and exotic places they visited. Now, with Osa in front of the camera, they produced many of the shorts seen before the main feature in theaters to audiences during the silent picture era and into the talkies. They captured scenes of wildlife in their natural habitat, giving the visual gift of the wild to millions. They were the first to introduce indigenous cultures to our so-called civilized one, says Conrad Frolick, Executive Director of the Safari Museum in Chanute. We have completed a great podcast telling the Johnsons' story with Conrad at the museum that can be heard for free at bobfordshistory.com. On one of their first explorations to Vanuatu, they wanted to find a seldom-seen tribe that still practiced cannibalism. They were warned not to go, but they went anyway. Nagabatu was the tribal chief who would have nothing to do with the Johnsons. Captured, Martin and Osa were in trouble, but filmed everything anyway. Think of the movie King Kong. They managed to escape right before dinner and eventually made it back to the United States. Once home, with their harrowing story and pictures, the Johnsons were elevated to celebrity status. Osa Johnson was now a woman recognized and idolized by men, women, and girls everywhere. She was living the life and challenging the norms that changed the perception of how a woman was supposed to act in our white, male-dominated early 20th century society. Osa had now joined the ranks of Amelia Earhart, Effa Manley, Nellie Bly, and others, forcing society to accept their accomplishments and slowly changing attitudes. On safari, Osa was in charge of providing fresh meat. They used many bearers to carry provisions and equipment that needed to be fed. Martin would film Osa big game hunting. She would hunt the likes of water buffalo, antelopes, warthogs, and others to feed the encampment. If you search, there's actually a video of Osa coolly bringing down a charging rhino in his tracks. Johnson's exploits didn't go unnoticed by others. George Eastman of Eastman Kodak fame joined them and underwrote several expeditions. In 1925, while on safari in Kenya, Osa and Martin met the Duke and Duchess of York, who later became King George VI and Queen Elizabeth of England. Last year I was doing time in Disney World. where they have a memorial to the Johnsons with many of their safari photographs on display at Animal Kingdom. These people were fearless. In 1932, at the Chinook Airfield, both received their pilot's license. Africa, filmed from the air, would be breathtaking. They purchased 2 amphibious Sikorsky aircraft so they could land wherever needed. As not to frighten the wildlife, they thought, one plane was painted with zebra stripes and the other giraffe spots. Can you imagine what a native thought, seeing not only their first plane, but a flying zebra? Martin and Osa Johnson left their mark. 14 feature films, 37 educational documentaries, and writing 7 books that ignited a wildlife and nature awareness movement that fostered global action from governments, charitable funds, and individuals up through today. The Johnsons were passionate about preservation and would go on lecture tours with films to help promote their cause. Ironically and sadly, while touring in 1937 on a scheduled flight from Salt Lake City to LA, the plane crashed, killing Martin. Many times, just think about it, this couple risked death in the wild only to have Martin succumb in civilization. Osa continued on, but it wasn't the same. She passed away in 1953, leaving a legacy, influencing a generation of people to learn and respect all wildlife, their habitats, and primitive cultures. Chinook isn't close to anything, but if you get a wild thought and want to see what a young girl from Kansas can accomplish, take a trip. Thank you all for watching. If you found this video interesting, please like and subscribe. Also consider becoming a patron for more exclusive historical content. All my videos go up several days early. Becoming a patron is truly the best way to support the channel. Comment below what historical topic you'd like me to cover next. You can find my podcast for Bob Ford's History, Mystery, and Lore link below. See you next time. Bob Ford out.